Hello everyone, my name is Elliot Greenwood, and in this video I'm going to talk about my first ever game jam experience. Now it's been a while since I uploaded and I do apologize. After completing all my assignments I just wanted to take a break, play some games, because I've been working on my bullet hell game for 3 months straight. And of course our school decided to slap us with another work, which is game jam, and this game jam is not really official because it's just college based task, and the main goal of this game jam is for us to experience teamwork. All the programming students and art students were grouped together and they had to come up with a game idea and just basically execute it. Now the main theme is islands. And I just want to show you how I developed my game idea. Since my team was built just by me and a couple less experienced artists, I decided to go with a small idea so I could have more time to code all mechanics together and the artist could have enough time to produce me the artwork. And this is just my basic sketch of how the game could function. My idea was to create an endless runner game which is based in the sky, where the player can just maneuver through the islands, travel across very long distances. Player will be able to create a hook, glide, and just travel this world. Now the whole process lasted 1 week. We were given 5 days from Monday to Friday to complete this game idea. So I'm gonna just walk you through all my work that I've done from Monday until the deadline. So on the Monday I started working with the character controller, just wanted to get physics-based character movement, very smooth input system. The reason I didn't manage to get much because first I thought that it would be great to use Unity's new input system, however I went back to old one because it has the get axis input. Basically I just wanted to have acceleration instead of just going straight from 0 to 1 in instants. The perfect jump was quite difficult to figure out since it caused me issues, and I just wanted to have this more calculated jump that feels natural and not floaty. But it was still floaty. The next day I decided to leave the jump unfixed for a moment, and I decided just to add other features into the game like Cinemachine camera that has pretty good damping effect and it will prevent any motion sickness and the game itself will look much smoother. At that time I decided to start using AI as an extra tool to help me code, and with the help of the AI I managed to get quite a good jump structure. The jump itself is hold to jump, so the longer you hold the higher it will jump, and it has, I would say, very clean structure. And now the jump works pretty well. I also added glide feature that works the same way, but it has just reduced gravity just to simulate this gliding effect. And of course over time it will make the player fall down. And the hardest task of the day was to figure out how to add projectile based grappling hook. My idea was to give no control over the retraction or extension, but only allow the player to swing. But I couldn't figure it out, so I left it for the next day. And as the last feature I decided to add ever increasing player speed if the player is not touching the ground. This will make the game go even faster and much harder to control the player over time, which makes perfect sense in endless runner game. Later on the same day I started working on island generation feature because I just wanted to have the whole run generated instead of pre-built. The functions are very basic and the whole generation is based on collisions. I created an integer that basically detects if the big collider has some islands inside. If the collider does not, then it creates new islands. Also, to prevent the spawner going backwards, I created this very simple calculating the distance from the player and just making sure that it only moves to the right side. And then again I tried to come up with a proper grappling hook mechanic, however Unity is just making things hard, so I just left the structure empty yet again. The next day, after watching many tutorials and using AI, I finally came up with the structure that at least works to some sort of extent. It's not perfect, however, the only flaw with it is that it has a bit clumsy swinging mechanic. But I decided to leave it the way it is because I just don't want to touch it anymore in case it will break again. So it just shoots projectile, the projectile gets stuck in the ground if it collides with something, joint is created with a render line to simulate that it's a grappling hook, and that's what the whole generation at the moment looks like. As you can see, it overlaps and it's just terrible. It is something that will be fixed very soon. Later the same day, I finally started to receive some artwork, and mainly it took them so long because my artist worked only school hours and only sometimes with some extra hours, unlike me who likes to spend like at least half of a day on this whole project. And by half I mean at least 8 hours. Not a big issue, but that's just a very interesting thing for me to consider in the future, depending on what kind of people I will get to hire and stuff like that. While waiting for the artwork, I started working on the score systems. Then, using the help of the ChatGPT, I tried to come up with better island detection to prevent overlapping, but it didn't help. And then I just worked on a bunch of micro things just to get as much progress done as possible while waiting. I guess this is a very good example of time management. Somewhere around the evening, I finally received a couple of island artwork, set up all the collisions, and soon I will tell you why this box collider is attached to it. And here it is, an island overlapping detection system. It's very basic and it's very efficient. It works very simply. It has 0.1 timer just to detect if the island spawns on top of each other. If it doesn't, the timer runs out and the function does not work anymore. However, if the island spawns again on top of other island, and if the collisions match, the island that spawned will get deleted. And that will prevent the islands spawning on top of each other, and the spawner thing will be forced just to spawn islands that will fit within the area. I don't need any fancy maths, any fancy coding, it's just basic collisions, basic detections, and it works very well. It's very interesting how we just tend to overthink and just not think with very basic and simple features. Then I just simply reworked the whole spawning random generated numbers, basically group the islands, and just out of the group random generate which island to spawn. Basic random range and integers, nothing interesting. And then I started adding a bunch of UIs, pause menus, game over screens, start screens, basic UI. One of the interesting parts about this day was probably figuring out how to update the Cinemachine camera boundaries. It's basically a polygon collider that prevents the camera moving outside one of the features that Cinemachine camera has. It's very basic vector to position change, and just basically in fixed update I'm calling the function that basically increases the polygon size within the game. It's not a very common used thing, but it is quite interesting that I managed to figure out it by myself. And that's how it works. So if I'm going to the left, the camera stops, and if I'm going to the right, the whole thing is getting rebaked, and the collisions are getting larger, and the whole map getting baked further. On the y-axis they stay the same, and as you can see the islands are spawning and just getting deleted if they spawn on top of the other islands. Overall, this day was pretty satisfying to work on. Thursday. Now on this day, a lot of things have been added, like a starter screen and a bunch of new islands, artwork. My artists finally stepped up, which is good. Overall, the game started to come together pretty well, and I started adding sounds, updated menus, coded in animations, and I added a bunch of collectibles. These collectibles are not just basic everyday coin collectibles, but more of a complete certain objective and get extra score bonus type of collectible if they land on very tight areas or glide very near to the island, of bottom of the island, basically just giving like those bonus scores. I used action listeners mainly because when you delete this kind of a collectible, the sound does not play, so action listener prevents the whole thing and just lets the whole coin play out as it should be. And this is how the game plays at the moment. There are still a few things that are missing, but the game is coming together pretty well. On my final day, Friday, finally received the last things that the artists planned to make for me, which is the collectible coin. Then I added simple particle system that has simple flower sprites, and I think that definitely makes the game look much more rich. And finally I received the final animation of the glide, which is just basically parachute. And that's pretty much it. The whole game was built within 5 days. The result is pretty solid, despite having some couple of issues, but other than that, I would say it's pretty solid game. Though with some extra features and extra achievements, this game could become quite a good game with a lot of replay value. Now, if you wish to play this game yourselves, you can find a link in the description down below. I'm really interested to see how far can you go, so please post your max distance in the comments down below, where I'm most likely to see all your comments. And I just want to thank absolutely everyone who watches these videos, who are subscribed to me, who like my content. I really appreciate all your comments, and yeah, thanks for the 100 subscribers. I guess it's some kind of a mini milestone. So yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure to check out my other content, and please have a go at my game. I'm really curious to see how far you can get.